So if you exist on Twitter like me, because I'm a goddamn moron, I've been watching and listening to essentially a. It's not a new thing because it's been something that's been happening, or like it's a theory that has been discussed prior to it recently blowing up. But there's a certain belief among the Final Fantasy VII community, especially those who see the remake project as kind of a sequel or like a multiverse, or just not going to wind up being similar to the OG or the original story of Final Fantasy VII. And that is this idea that Advent Children, the movie that came out like a couple years after the original Final Fantasy VII, is the bad ending. And that the remake project is essentially going to change it, meaning that Advent Children will no longer exist, and that the devs are going to make a better ending. And to me, my own personal opinion on this is that no, I don't agree with this. I think Advent Children is not a bad ending, because at the end of Advent Children, everyone is happy. Cloud smiles, and he finally knows, he finally understands that where he belongs is with Tifa, with Denzel, with Marlene, with all his friends. That this survivor's guilt that he has been experiencing, and then it came back after geostigma started to infecting not only everyone else but him, and he felt that he didn't do enough, that he was going to survivor's guilt again, that he relapsed, which is common with people who have a certain PTSD that they go through. They could feel like they got over it, that it won't come back, but guess what? It does. It relapses. It's a type of mental health thing where stuff like PTSD or relapsing, or like just something to do with survivor's guilt does relapse. And that's what Cloud had felt, because he felt that he personally failed both Zack and Aerith, and this was his punishment. That even though he started to feeling happy that he is with Tifa, with Marlene, living in Edge, the fact that he got geostigma and him trying to find out a way to cure himself and find a way to cure Denzel eventually, is his punishment for not being able to save Zack and not being able to save Aerith, despite him saving the planet by defeating Sephiroth, which allowed the live stream to stop Meteor. It's not a bad ending. It's not, because no matter how much you feel about the movie, and I have my own personal dissatisfaction of the movie, it's not a bad ending, because at the end of it, guess what? Sephiroth gets defeated again. Geostigma is cured. Cloud is seen smiling, seeing happy. He wants to be there now. And the idea that Advent Children will be changed because people feel like the remake project is seen as a sequel, or is seen as is going to wind up with a different ending, I think are the main people who are pushing this narrative that Advent Children will be erased, that Advent Children is the bad ending, when it's not, because we see at the end of Final Fantasy VII, 500 years in the future, life on the planet is reviving itself. You see the old remnants of Midgard, and you see all this greenery, all this grass, stuff that was disappeared. Because if you remember, Midgard, surrounding Midgard, there's nothing but just really desert plains. Just there's nothing. It's all dry, because all the nature that was surrounding Midgard was evaporated because of Midgard's use of the Mako reactors. The planet is healing. The planet is saved, and that is the good ending. So why are people pushing this idea? Well, it's for a few reasons. The first reason is, of course, they believe that Final Fantasy VII Remake is not following the OG storyline, but it's a sequel where Sephiroth or whatever is going back in time to try to win, and it's going to wind up in some sort of different ending. I'm just paraphrasing what that theory is. I don't agree with it, but that's one of the reasons why people are vouching for Advent Children to be changed. The next group are people who believe that since Sephiroth is not defeated in Advent Children, that he comes back, it is not the good ending. The good ending should be Sephiroth completely being defeated. And that's it. That is the good ending, and thus Advent Children doesn't exist. Geo Sigma doesn't come back. Cloud doesn't feel like he has survivor's guilt and all this stuff. Where Cloud just feels depressed like he is shown in the movie. The third group are people who want Aerith to survive. And this comes from whether you're an Aerith fan or if you're a Cloud and Aerith shipper, where you want Aerith to survive in the hopes that, there's a possibility that Cloud and Aerith wind up together, which to me, even if she does survive, that won't happen. But that is the third group that wants to erase Advent Children. They want to erase it because they want Aerith to come back. They don't want to see Aerith joining Zack, and they leave straight into the light stream where they rest in peace after Advent Children. They don't see that as a good ending for Aerith, right? Which I personally, the way the story is written, the way Nojima writes the story, it's focusing on the memories, the pain of death, the pain of survivor's guilt, and all of this is important themes of Final Fantasy VII. So to me, Advent Children represents that really well. I do not see it as a bad ending, but just enhancing those themes and creating a movie that has its faults. There's no question about it. It has its faults. I personally have faults with the movie, and but it doesn't change. It doesn't mean it's a bad ending, because at the end of the day, Cloud is happy. The rest of the group, Tifa, Sid, Barrett, Marlene, everyone, they're all happy. Geostigma is cured. Everyone is happy. They're all celebrating in the church. But of course, people see that as a bad ending, which I don't necessarily agree. I don't think we need to change it at all. It is part of the compilation, and I think the devs have preached about it, have preached that remake will wind up to where Advent Children is, meaning that the remake project is going to lead up to Advent Children. Some people take that differently. They believe that Advent Children happened, and then thus Final Fantasy Remake Project is going to link back to Advent Children as some time traveling type of thing, which to me, you're trying to create this time travel thing as a way to, or in my opinion, at least in my opinion and the way I see it, as a refusal to acknowledge that the changes that they made in Final Fantasy VII Remake Project are just additions that they're adding based off every other single thing in the compilation in order to create a director version of the original story, which to me, that's what they're doing. You're getting a full-blown, the director cut of Final Fantasy VII that they wanted to do, that they thought about it through all the compilations, and just attaching and just lining up everything with the compilation, and that's what they're trying to do. To me, that's what they're doing, not trying this meta time travel sequel thing that some people are theorizing. To me, it's just, why make it so complicated like that? When the entire point of the remake, then they have stated this, is to give new players the chance to experience the story of Final Fantasy VII. You could disagree with the choices, the additions. You could disagree with how they're handling the Final Fantasy VII Remake Project. That's not something that I think that you don't have a right to do. It's just what you're trying to do, like changing the ending or making a new ending, erasing Advent Children, is you're trying to essentially erase the compilation, erase everything that the devs have done in order to satisfy what you wanted to happen. Essentially a headcanon. And it's funny because a lot of people always clown shippers, always clown on people who ship things or who stand characters, and try to claim that, they don't know the lore, they don't understand the lore, because they're only focusing on the headcanons of what they want for their ship or what they want for their character, and if that doesn't happen, it's a disappointment, so they want the changes done. The thing is, there's a lot of people who don't necessarily like Advent Children. They don't like Dirge of Cerberus, which, understandable. Dirge of Cerberus, I never want to freaking play Dirge of Cerberus ever again, because it hurt my brain. But I do think they're gonna remake it at some point. But I get it. You don't like that. You don't like the compilation. You don't like the stuff that they added after the original story because you love the original story so much. I get that. I love the original story. I love Final Fantasy 7 OG. But the devs are proud of what they did. Of whether or not maybe they had or wanted to do slight changes to their servers or Advent Children. What they're going to essentially, or what they are doing, is trying to make everything fit because they want it to all fit. They want to give every single player who has ever played Final Fantasy VII and the new players an opportunity to play a game, a franchise, a story that fits everything from everything they have ever written over the course of many, many years. That's what they're doing. They're putting everything together in order to give you that director's cut version, the developer's cut version, the story that they always wanted to tell. And that's what they're doing. Like I said, you could disagree with the things, you could disagree with what they're saying, you could disagree with essentially how much you dislike Dirge of Cerberus, you dislike some of the compilation, you dislike some of the stuff. And to me, it's like, okay, that's fair. You could dislike it. No one ever said that you can't. The problem is that when you think your headcanons is far better, far outseeds what the devs are doing, that's where the issue essentially lies. And that's where a lot of people tend to take their takes or their reasons for removing Advent Children or their idea of removing or changing the ending to the Final Fantasy VII story in the Remake Project as gospel, as like they want that to happen because it's what they think is the best for the story. But it's not what the devs want. The devs have constantly stated that what they want to do is remake the story with additions where it all leads up to Advent Children, and they combine everything. They combine all the compilations they have made out throughout the story so that it leaves less interpretations in the minds of fans so that they know exactly, oh, this is what we want to do. This is what we're doing. Boom. Here you go. To me, I would rather trust what the devs are saying, and I get it that some people don't necessarily always believe what the devs are saying because they could always be lying, and that could be true still. I don't have any proof that they're not lying, but if they constantly keep saying this from the very beginning of this project, why should I believe my headcanons or someone else's theories or someone else's headcanons over what the devs are saying? I get it. We all want something new, something shiny, because after experiencing Final Fantasy VII Remake and seeing what that ending was with the whispers and all that stuff, you think, oh, they're completely changing it. I thought that too at one point. But then after Rebirth came out, I noticed that, oh, they're still keeping the same plot points. If this is some meta sequel or something to do with time travel, why are the events playing out the same? Is it because you believe that Sephiroth wants these events to play out the same before he changes something in the middle of the story? But that doesn't make any sense. If Aerith is the reason why the planet gets saved from Meteor because she's in the life stream, why kill her? That's one of the things I want to explain, because it just doesn't make any sense then. And if Aerith really knows the future and knows what happens, you know, even after she gets her memories erased, as she states in Rebirth, why would they kill her still if they're trying to change it, as if they're going to summon some sort of magic ability where she gets revived? And why only Aerith? Why not revive Zack as well? Some people only want Aerith to survive, and others just don't want Zack to be revived as well. There's so many inconsistencies with what people want that people are confusing theories with headcanons. I get it. There are certain times where theories and headcanons collide. But when your reasoning is because you want this to happen, or you want that to happen, or you don't like certain something from the compilation, and you want that to change because that what you think is the best way to write the story is how it should be. That's a headcanon. That's not a theory. That's a headcanon. You want it to be different. You want it because you don't like Advent Children, or you don't like Dirge of Cerberus or something. You don't like the compilation. And that's what you want. And if it doesn't happen, you get disappointed. To me, I never thought Advent Children was a bad ending at all. I have issues with the way the movie is presented. and what they were trying to convey wasn't necessarily the best way to do it. To me, Advent Children is still part of compilation, still part of the lore, and that's what I enjoy because that's what the devs wanted. A lot of people want what they want instead of listening to what the devs want. That doesn't mean you can't criticize and dislike what the devs do. That's far from what I'm trying to say. What I'm saying is, if you believe that your headcanon or what you want is going to completely fix everything, it will completely fix everything for you. Someone else will be completely upset. You see where I'm going? We are confusing headcanons and trying to put them out as theories, which technically theories are headcanons. But some people don't see it that way. Some people think that theories are much more, not professional, but like they hold more water than like something like, oh, a shipper wants this to happen. Oh, but you only want that because you're a shipper and you only headcanon certain things, right? There's no difference between theories and being a shipper or being a stan of a character. There's nothing different about it at all. I have met shippers who are far more knowledgeable about the lore than actual people who focus on the lore. There are like that's what I don't understand, why so many people see shippers as well as like these fans who don't deserve the right to talk about the lore, because all of a sudden, oh, you're a shipper, you're biased, you have this headcanon, your opinion is not important enough for me to discuss the lore of Final Fantasy VII with you. No, like that's why I had made that comment on Twitter about that, because it's just generalizing an entire community when people of other parts of the community do the same thing, but people don't realize it or don't acknowledge that that's what they're doing because they don't have the shipping label on. And don't get me wrong, shippers are insane. Some shippers go to the lengths to really just attack developers and do all of this just really terrible stuff. Don't get me wrong, they do that. But there are shippers who love the story of Final Fantasy VII to the point that they study the lore probably more so than some people who create theories out there. I'm not someone like that. There are things about the lore of Final Fantasy VII that I learn about every single day. I don't go around telling people that I know the lore better than you do, though. I don't. Because there's always something new. There's always something new to learn. That's why it's important to always not try to force or try to act like you know more than others, or try to demean someone because they're a shipper or because they're this or they're that, or they're a stand of this character, so they're only focusing on what they want for that character to happen, thus a headcanon. It doesn't matter. If you understand the lore of Final Fantasy VII, if you understand the story of Final Fantasy VII, it doesn't matter if you're a shipper, a theory bro, a character stand. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, you love that story and you want what's best for the story. But sometimes the best of the story is getting what you already get by the developers and what they want. That, to me, I hold more respect for authors for doing what they want. Even if I disagree with what they choose at the end or what they want to do, I respect that more out of authors, because that tells me that, hey, I'm not essentially going with what fans have been clamoring me for me to do. This is my story. I'm going to end it that way. I'm going to end it my way, and I hold more respect for that. And that's what I see the devs doing. And that's my whole viewpoint of all of this. I will say, though, that sometimes the developers for Final Fantasy VII love to play with fans online by creating these type of ideas or thoughts and putting it out there, where they just constantly want to create discussion among Final Fantasy VII fans, because they want to allow Final Fantasy VII to continue to be in the public eye, which, for better or worse, it has not always been good PR. Hasn't always been good PR, but that's what they want. They want you to keep talking about it, and they intentionally are doing this, which you gotta love the devs, but sometimes they initiate some of this stuff that just make you go, ugh. But I'm just going off on a tangent. The point is, Advent Children is not a bad ending. Everyone is happy there. Aerith and Zack are both happy with the result of Cloud finally forgiving himself, and they understand that it wasn't Cloud's fault. that they did what they did, and they died because of what they wanted to do, and they're happy for it. They get to reunite in the live stream, and then they set off into a live stream to be with each other forever. I get it that a lot of people may not like that from one side of the fandom, but that's what the devs did, and I respect them for that. And Cloud is happy finally being with Tifa and everybody else, and it makes him happy. That's what makes him happy. And he smiles at the end of the movie. How is that not a happy ending? That's why I don't get it. So I do not think Advent Children is a bad ending. I don't think Advent Children should be erased. I don't think it's a bad ending. I don't think it should change whatsoever. The Final Fantasy VII Remake Project is currently being debated on either the people who want nothing to change and then follows the OG storyline, or people who do want changes because of some of this theories and stuff that they put into the remake project. And that's where the two sides are colliding, and essentially that's where some of these takes come from. At the end of the day, I will enjoy Final Fantasy VII Remake Project no matter how it ends, even if it's stuff that I don't necessarily agree with, because at the end of the day, it's a story that I love. It's a franchise, it's a game franchise, whatever is something that I love, and I want the devs to create something that they want to leave a lasting legacy behind, because this is likely the last time they will ever be able to do this with Final Fantasy VII. So that's why I will respect the author's choice in whatever they do in Part 3, regardless if it's something I don't necessarily agree with. That's perfectly fine. So that's what I want to talk about. That's my take. And let me know what you think in the comments below, whether or not you agree with it or not. Listen, I get it. You may not like what I said. You may not like or agree with what I said. But at the end of the day, let's have a healthy discussion over it, and we'll see what happens. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.